COVID shut down. Congress locked their doors to visitors. They moved hearings to virtual chats and instituted what's called proxy voting. Well, as the nation reopened, Congress eventually returned to normal in-person voting. Well, since then, there have been efforts to resume this idea of proxy voting for certain instances. It would include major illnesses of a spouse or a family member and pregnancy. Well, proponents say this would allow new mothers to continue voting while caring for small children. Opponents, though, argue it's Pandora's box and will be misused and abused down the road. Well, our next guest is both a mother and political scientist, understands, I think, all sides of this. It's Dr. Carol Swain. Dr. Swain, welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay. House Democrats instituted this proxy voting back in the 117th Congress. Republicans ended it in the 118th. There are bills filed every year on this, one filed by Jamie Raskin, I believe, in 23 on this. But is this a good idea?
It's a terrible idea because Congress is supposed to be a deliberative body. And for over 200 years, people conducted the business of Congress within the chambers. And when Nancy Pelosi instituted the proxy voting during COVID, they used the emergency to get through something that I'm sure members of Congress have always wanted. The problem is they loved it so much that people they held on to it until 2023 when Speaker McCarthy eliminated it. They wanted it then, but they were using it while they were on vacation. They were using it from golf courses, cars for convenience. And so I think that using the women and having these, quote, young mothers holding their babies saying that they need proxy voting to be able to participate is ridiculous because women have been elected to Congress since the 1920s. Women have given birth and raised their children on Capitol Hill. In fact, they have a child care center at the House of Representatives. So the whole thing is ridiculous. It's a slippery slope. We learned last year that there was a member of Congress that was in a nursing home still drawing a paycheck. That person obviously wasn't voting, but if there was proxy voting, their family members or someone else would have been voting for them.
Yeah, for those new members of Congress back when this happened, you knew who the new members were because they were having to stay there and register the votes for the other representatives. David Schweikert's a representative from Arizona. He's the chairman of the Joint Economic Council, speaks nearly every week on the nation's debt. He says we have a demographic problem. Does this signal the wrong thing that we're against families and raising kids and working at the same time?
Tony, my blood begins to boil at times, and I'm not a person that normally has a temper. But what I see is that the Republicans are being manipulated and outmaneuvered. And Representative Luma from Florida joined with a Democrat young mother. And so they've been parading around with their babies and small children. And I think that's manipulation because the average person, and there are a lot of people that think this is about their being able to vote. This is about the House not being friendly to families. They have leave. They can stay away as long as they want to stay away, but they can't vote, from a beach. They can't vote from their home. They have to be physically there. The members of Congress who really cared about the institution and the legislation, they came to work and they took their children with them. They took their children sometimes when they voted on the floor. They have a daycare center there. It is ridiculous. Is it part of this privileged generation that these young women think that they can have it all? If you're serving in Congress, you need to be able to serve. And I think that the young women need to make a decision. You want equality? Well, the equality means that men and women who have decided to serve their constituents, they show up for work. They don't ask for special privileges.
Dr. Swain, so good to see you. Thanks for your insight. By the way, you have an article that was in the New York Post, I believe, just yesterday. So if you get a chance, look that up. It's in the New York Post, and Dr. Carol Swain here on Cal Guy. You know, it's time now to